Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to all of you from The Economist. We're very pleased to welcome you this morning to our conference, the Western Balkans Summit for 2022, Building Bridges for Peace, Prosperity and Solidarity. I have to say, the idea of stability, which I think is one of the major themes of this morning, perhaps I'm not the right person coming from the UK to be talking about stability just at the moment. We normally like to think of ourselves as an example of stability and sensible, sober, moderate politics, but I'm afraid we've been putting on a bit of a show for the rest of the world over the last few weeks. I believe, presumably almost as we speak, Rishi Sunak is on his way to Buckingham Palace to be made Prime Minister, our first Prime Minister of Indian heritage, which is, I think, is a good thing for us. Some people are calling it the Empire Strikes Back. Well, on the theme of instability, of course, it's not just Britain, not just the UK. We live in a very unstable world at the moment, a very turbulent world. But I think this is more than the usual turbulence that we're experiencing at the moment. What we're seeing, I think, is a challenge to the global order that has ruled supreme around the planet since the end of the Second World War. And a new contest between power centres and indeed between models of global governance. So our conference today takes place in this context of global change on a historic scale. Russia is waging war in Ukraine. China is no longer hiding its strength and biding its time. And like Mr. Putin, Xi Jinping has made clear his intention to extend his rule beyond the constitutional norm and perhaps for the foreseeable future. In the United States, next month's midterm elections may see the West's most powerful democracy enter a period of relative political paralysis as the tribal warfare between and within the Democratic and Republican parties takes centre stage. Every slip these days in the West's democracies is seized on by the world's authoritarians as further evidence of our system's inevitable decline. That's the way they frame it. Between the US, China and Russia stands Europe. The continent has seen unity increased in its response to COVID-19 and to the war in Ukraine. But the EU still remains deeply divided over the standards that should be required of members, and in the case of UK, whether they want to be members at all. Within this context, the Western Balkans, of course, represents a substantial market in its own right, with tremendous potential ripe for investment opportunities in transport, energy, tourism, and other sectors. But it's also a crossing point between the EU core and its southeastern flank, significant from the point of view of trade and economic exchange, but also as a route for refugees traversing the continent. The region's integration into the broader European and global economy promises development and stability, but remains some way off and is obstructed by long-standing discord among its members. Over the next few hours, we're going to dig into some of these themes and the wide range of opportunities the region offers, but also some of the barriers that stand in the way of realising them. And we're joined by an eminent, celebrated group of speakers and panellists. I'm very proud, actually, to be chairing this conference because I believe we have an extraordinary lineup of speakers and panellists who are going to be joining us to help us understand some of these issues. Before I do, I'm going to turn to my co-chair for the day, Mario Bikarski. Mario is the Economist's Intelligence Unit's lead analyst on Russia, Central Asia and the Caucasus, and an expert on the Western Balkans and indeed a local of the Balkans himself. So please join me in thanking everybody who's here today, all of our speakers who we're going to be hearing from soon, as I make my way over to have a word with Mario. Thank you very much.